Okay, so this was the AC system. It was on the same panel as the DC. The DC and the AC are on the same panel, and I've heard ever since I started this project they should be separated. Basically, it was the one breaker. Shore power came into it, and then through this distribution block, it branched out to 3 outlets, one in the galley, one in the head, and one by the nav desk. So basically I had this 30 amp breaker protecting 15 amp outlets and 15 amp rated 14 gauge triplex. So that is also from Hunter, which is a poor design. So I'm redoing that. Alright, so I got this from Pan Electronics. They were great. I contacted them on the phone. I explained them my situation. So what I was looking for was, I liked the original 30 amp breaker for protecting shore power, and I don't see this often. This was hard to find. This is it's got 3 poles, and the first 2 are obviously the hot and the neutral, and it breaks them simultaneously. But the third, it trips the ground as well if it senses reverse polarity or it senses voltage coming in. So it trips it upon sensing voltage, which I like, and I have not been able to find this easily. And actually, this is air packs, and actually this one is also, it's the same thing. So this wasn't easy for me to find. The reverse polarity breaker, the coil. So basically, it's a coil that trips when it senses volts coming in through the ground. And with that being 30 amps, I have now 3 15 amp breakers coming off that, and those are going to protect the 14 gauge triplex going to the 15 amp outlets. So everything's going to be protected. Each outlet's going to be protected on its own breaker, and the shore power is going to be protected on its own breaker. And I think that's a long way from what they offered me at Hunter. And I'm going to separate it from the DC panel. So I have the DC panel mounted up there, and I'm going to mount the AC panel in here, in this cabinet, right here against the wall. Okay, so I just ordered this junction box, this outdoor junction box, online. I got it real cheap. I got it for under 20 bucks. And what I did was I cut out a hole in the lid, and I'm going to mount this, the breaker right to it. I did have one problem with this idea of mine. The problem I had is it's going to be in this cabinet. It's going to be right underneath the nav desk, and it's going to be very flush. If I open up the cabinet, I really have to kind of get in there and look at it, because it's just flat against the wall. So I kind of came up with a different idea. Okay, so I designed this box specially. I made it so that the back angle is not 90, it's acute, or the front angle up to, whichever way you want to look at it, so that when it's mounted, it'll be it'll be cocked at an angle. So then now when you open up the cabinet door, it's just kind of right there, looking right at you, and that's kind of what it'll be like. And this is what it would have been like if I just used the junction box. So it gives me a little more visibility. It's got to look at it at an angle a little bit. I don't gotta stick my whole head in there. Okay, so I'm going to renew all this triplex. Okay, I got some new triplex 10 gauge for the shore power breaker. It's 14 gauge for the outlets. Okay, so this is the original 10 gauge coming in from shore power socket, coming into the boat. The sheathing sure looks bad, but in itself, it's not in bad shape, bad quality. If I was not relocating the breaker panel, I probably would have just reused it. But since I'm relocating it, it's not long enough, so I'm gonna rewire it using new wire. I have to drill a couple new holes for the main 30 amp inlet for the 10 gauge, and I'll probably separate this from all the DC wiring and just put all the AC wiring in their own sheets and through their own holes. This has been one of the most invaluable tools so far on this entire project. I mean, it allows me to do things where other tools just can't fit. Well, I think anyone who's ever done any work on a boat knows this image quite well. You gotta be able to squeeze in to the tightest of spots. Come out to the coast, we'll get together, a few laughs. There's the shore power outlet. I was tugging out the old triplex, and these just pulled right out, really with almost little to no effort. It really shocked me. I don't know if I should put some sort of junction box around it. Okay, I just picked up a new 30 amp inlet, and there was really nothing really wrong with this. I like this because it came with a backing plate. This is really important. It has a back cover, and it has a clamp to hold the triplex in place, so that alone was worth just getting a new one. Alright, I just like to prep things, so I'm going to prep this with just some various lubricants. I'm going to hit the gasket and the cover with some silicone spray, just to keep it preserved and give it some durability against the weather. I'm going to hit the gasket with some O-ring lubricant, and it keeps it supple and gives it a slight swell. And I'll hit the tongs with just a touch of joint compound, and it prevents oxidation. Okay, she's all set, ready to go. I'm going to put the gasket in place, and I'm going to mount it. Okay, so I'm going to be renewing these old outlets. Alright, so I'm reusing the same boxes. I just repainted them with insulating paint. I really like the way they have the clamps. I couldn't find this size box with the clamps right there, so I ended up buying just new boxes. I painted them as well, and getting these inserts. And I don't really like these inserts. I mean, once you pull it in, it's a pain in the neck to back it out. Now if I wanted to back that out, I have to like stick a screwdriver in there and open that up, and it's just kind of a pain. So I decided these clamps were actually, the boxes that were in here were actually superior, which is one of the few things I'm actually reusing. So I just took them out, I painted them, I cleaned up the screws, I lubed them, and I'm reusing them. This is the outlets I'm using. It's not a GFI. Some people told me that the GFIs would trip all the time because of the moist environment. So I tried doing some research on the GFIs and on boats, and I really wasn't able to really come up with anything. Not only is there not any electrical tape wrapping the terminal connectors, which there usually is, but the way this is installed, this kind of is partially exposed to the elements because it goes from the galley, and then it's terminated. The outside of it is in here in the fuel tank compartment, which, you know, it isn't as protected from the elements as the inside. This can be exposed to, if not direct rain, I mean certainly moisture and the elements. I think there should have been at least a cap, a plastic sheath over it, as I do see in some vessels. This is something I'm thinking it should have been over that. If it was going to be on the outside of this, just like that. At least it would have added some. You even could have put a little silicone in there. And I would have added a little extra caution. Okay, so this is the nav desk outlet, which is very important because that's what I hook up my battery charger to when I'm plugged into shore. Okay, so I got this all assembled, ready to go back in. I don't know, I just put heat shrink on the ends just to kind of tighten it up a little bit, and of course I heat shrink all these terminals. I threw a little electrical tape around it. I'm going to work that in there, and I'm going to put her back together, and she should be ready to go. Okay, so this is where I mounted the AC shore power panel underneath the nav desk in the cabinet. And I just retrofitted that latch really quick. I got lucky with that latch. I'm not even really sure what it is. It just went in the marine shop over here in the marina, and I found it. And then I had to find this piece of angle iron just out of the trash. I got lucky. So this is all 11th hour stuff. I'm going to take the schematic and I'm going to laminate it. I'm just going to keep it in here, so if anyone ever needs to get to it, or if I ever need to get to it, figure out what's going on, it's right there. So I'll take another quick video once everything's spiffed up. when we're out on the water. But for the most part, this long, arduous project, for me anyway, maybe not for everybody, but for me it was long and difficult. It's for the most part done. Again, my vision was to have a panel that I could just open up and work on it like a gentleman. Again, the whole idea was to have something where if I have to do work, rather than just dropping 4 screws and having the panel hanging and working on it like that, I could just open it up and look inside and see what's going on. And I could just get to it and quick access and just really work like a gentleman. So that's that. That's ultimately what it came out to. I have the AC panel. I got the DC panel. They're both boxes that I could open and get behind. That's ultimately the vision I had. Let's get her out there. Let's stretch her legs and let's see what she can do. Okay, so it was a job well done. A long, arduous, tedious journey. It was a labor of love. It was a job that needed to be done. She looks great. She sails great. It was all tested, and this is what it's all about. I mean, all that work in a 100-degree cabin with the sun bearing down on you, doing tedious electrical work, cramming into tight places, cutting into fiberglass, covered in fiberglass, getting burned on a solder gun, getting burned on a heat shrink gun. In the end, it's all for this. So, and I think all you sailors out there know what I'm talking about. So I hope you gather any information from this project, any you could take, any you could leave, what to do, what not to do, and hopefully it aids you in your own electrical project. Godspeed and happy sailing.